Okay.
That's just your iced tea.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah. All right.
I'm excited to be here with you guys because I know that I love the idea behind this whole thing. This like running out of fuel and needing that last little bit for Friday. I definitely feel like that I had one of those weeks where it was really like, I'm already done. I was done before today started. I felt like I didn't have anything left to give. And just, you know, today was taxing in every way. And I came home to prepare myself to be able to give, because I wanted to give what I needed. You know, I came home and I took a long bike ride and I relaxed. And then right before we're about to get on, my dad calls me, and he has like trouble with tone. So he says, "Hi, son," and I'm like, "Oh God, who died? Oh no, oh no." He's like, "I'm coming over Sunday for the football game, right? Like, I'm gonna bring sandwiches." I'm like, "Oh, no." So we go over the practical things of Sunday, and then he's like, "Okay, I'll talk to you later. Oh, one more thing. We your mother and I bought our plots today at the cemetery." So anyway, I'm here. I want to give something of positivity, and I find that in my students' writing and in giving them a chance to express themselves. And this is a lesson that I've put together on using haikus in a transformative way to experiment, that might not be spelled right, with genre, and to do some concrete imagery, and to think about authentic revision. I have sort of a love-hate relationship with haikus. Like, I think we've all taught them, and there's like, they could be beautiful, but then there's like a purposelessness when they encounter the American teenager, where they're just turned into this thing that does nothing and is small. So I really kind of, can you guys still see this? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I really try to get them to think about, so I tell them, Matt, put this word in the back of your journal where we keep words. And I give them this sort of definition, which really tries to think about I really try to emphasize the traditionalness of the haiku to them and how it evokes images of the natural world. And like, this is not just 17 syllables. There's more to it than this. And then I show them some real haikus, which are here. I think these are so beautiful. The first one says, "Falling upon earth, pure water spills from the cup of the camellia." And usually we read it twice, and then a third time we talk about Zen a little bit. We try to talk about what does that do, right? How is that different than just, how is it more than 17 syllables? What are the more things you see? And then I read them another one. "A gentle spring rain. Look, a rat is lapping Sumida River." And I try to build in these pauses, these moments of let's think about this and reflect. Even when I did this early on, I had some pretty mixed results with getting kids to actually like really think about the haiku and take it seriously. So then I would take them on a haiku hike. We would go around the school, right? And I would tell them, let's talk about the five senses, right? How the five senses are crucial to writing a traditional haiku, right? You're gonna really, and why, right? What kind of answers do you guys think they gave to how are the five senses crucial to writing a traditional haiku?
Using your fingers to hold the pencil.
Come on, play my game. Help me.
Five senses.
Oh, we're supposed to answer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
This was wait time.
Gotcha. I think that I like there's like that there's always some kind of sensory surprise, like you kind of see something differently, like the water spilling out of a cup and it turns out to be a flower, like that. They have to kind of see that, but you have to be surprised. You have to have your like eye broken open, or I don't know, hear something differently. And
they usually talk about what seeing things, right? They're like, well, nature is something you experience with the five senses, right? We kind of talk about imagery, and they're like, oh, okay, imagery, haiku, whatever, right? And I promise there's more to this lesson than this, because I wanted there to be more to it. And for a couple of years, I just did these haiku hikes, and then I'd walk them around the school, and we'd go to the courtyard, and then we'd go to the bus loop, and I'd take them out by some trees, and we'd come back, and they'd read their haikus. So I want to show you guys sort of that and some e-learning adaptations, but there's more to it than just haikus. But we have to write some haikus first. So I want you guys to stay with me. So this is literally a slide I should have done. Like, bring your journals, leave your bags. We're going to go on a haiku hike. We're going to stop sometimes. I encourage them to focus on small things. So I'm going to encourage you guys to do the same thing, right? If we were in the classroom, there's some ways to adapt this. If you feel like your school doesn't have a play, very fortunate to have a school with some very deliberate green spaces. If you're not, you can bring in objects. You could tell students to bring in objects. I've certainly been like, find something weird at your house and bring it in before. You can swap photographs for objects. I've never actually tried this. I've sort of always had it in my back pocket as like, I think this would work. It certainly could be something that would allow them to have a prompt to haiku about. But in doing this with my e-learners this year, I asked them to move around the house and write haikus about objects that they found in their house. I was like, fine, anywhere you're allowed to go. A lot of them are just home alone. So I was like, go outside if you can, write about a house plant, write about a picture on the wall. I encouraged them to use all of their five senses and to write as many haikus as they could. I also tried to be like, because you don't have a lot of control over this, but I know that there's a power in asking and in putting it out there. So there are kids who will follow my directions. So I encourage them to do this in as thoughtful a silence as they could and turn off their cameras, go disappear for a while. Particularly in my creative writing e-learning class, we've talked about taking time to turn off your camera and write and let that be a transformative experience, which I have to give credit was mostly Madi's idea. I was like, listen, at best, at worst, write about what's on your desk. Give me some haikus about these objects and what they mean to you that are around you. So I promise there's more to it than just writing haikus. Stay with me for a moment. Let's go write a few haikus about things around our house and come back.
How long should we do that for, Eric?
That's a great thing that I should have said. Come back 5-10 minutes, somewhere in there.
Okay, great.
Do you think that's all right, Mike?
Great.
I want to give people some time. This is what I would do in the classroom, 5-10 minutes.
Excellent.
Word.
no rush. Just going to remind you guys that we're trying to use all 5 senses. Take a few more minutes if you need them. Turn your cameras on when you're ready to come back to us. All right, wrap up the haiku you're working on here. If you don't mind, I'm going to stop screen sharing for just a moment. And I always find this is a good moment to invite some sharing, to open kids up to their point of view on certain things. If we've all experienced the same things in our haiku, it's fun to get them sharing the different things or the same things they saw and the different things they wrote about them and these sort of different points of view. And I suppose it's a check that they know how to write a haiku, but I'm never really that worried about it. To open them up for the next step. So would anybody care to share one of their haikus with us? All right, so Madi put in the chat. May I read it, Madi? Oh, you want to do it? Me? I'll do it. It says, coarse to touch yet soft, the vibrating smell of steel plucking through the pain. Nice. Yes, yes. And of course, we all see that teachable moment. We'd be like, what did you guys see? What is this about, right? Who else would like to share? Joanna, you want to unmute yourself and share?
Six smooth skipping stones tumbled over time and tides, stacked wishes on the table.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Kathy, you want me to read it? You're welcome to unmute and read it if you'd like.
Sorry, I just thought you guys have to see my inspiration.
Okay.
This is my table.
Nice.
There are probably 5 more disposable cups on my island or half empty water bottles. This is my frustration and my inspiration.
Yeah.
I'll read it. That's fine since I'm unmuted now. Cups clutter counters made to be disposable, and yet cups clutter.
Nice.
That's a good mom poem.
Yeah, well, and I wanted to point out the symmetry of the first and the third line there. I love the show and tell aspects of any Zoom. I wrote about, can you guys see over here that we have this bamboo that is over all of our dishes that sit there to dry when I don't put them away. I always thought that was kind of funny. So I wrote, a snarl of bamboo over these drying dishes waiting for shelves. Oh, there's more in the chat. Hold on.
Okay, yeah, I didn't mean to put and in there. I had a comma on my page and I just, soft, furry comfort, noble, mischievous, gentle, Mr. Beauregard.
What a name. I love it.
Right? Tell me that is a sophisticated cat.
No, an 85-pound German Shepherd.
Was I the only one who imagined a cat? Tell me I wasn't.
I know, I swear it was a cat too.
And these are those great moments that can happen. We can talk about imagery, right? We can share and everybody can laugh, that experience of language and think about what did you see? I love that. Last call. Anybody else want to share one? Oh, okay. Mike put one in the chat. You want to read it, Mike?
The stone teaches me. I am still here. I am still.
Look at that. Your moment of zen, guys. There it is. So, well, this is fun and good. And it seems it's all very low stakes and allows the kids to experiment with some language here. And I love that as an inroad, right? Starting with something low stakes. The next thing that I always do is I read them a poem that's not a haiku. You guys can see my screen, right? Okay. So this is Morning by Billy Collins. Why do we bother with the rest of the day? The swell of the afternoon, the sudden dip into evening, then night with his notorious perfumes, his many pointed stars. This is the best. Throwing off the light covers, feet on the cold floor, and buzzing around the house on espresso. Maybe a splash of water on the face, a palm full of vitamins, but mostly buzzing around the house on espresso. Dictionary and atlas open on the rug, the typewriter waiting for the key of the head, a cello on the radio. And if necessary, the windows. Trees 50, 100 years old out there, heavy clouds on the way, and the lawn steaming like a horse in the early morning. Right? Isn't that such a dope poem? That's I'm curious as a teacher, talking to teachers, what are the things you would ask your students after you read it or they read it to you or whatever happened? Like what would you ask them?
Which of these images speaks to you?
Yes. Yeah.
In the morning, what other ones would you add? That kind of thing. Yeah.
Sure. Right. And they, of course, they would key in on maybe the light covers and the feet on the floor, right? Maybe they would see the splash of water. Maybe some enterprising student would be like, "Oh, I see the five senses," and you'd be like, "Shut up, smart guy." What else? What other kind of questions would maybe you?
I always ask my kids what line is their favorite.
Oh, and that's such a great thing to think about, right? Like,
Yeah.
let them express how they feel about the poem. Joanna, what line was your favorite?
I had it a minute ago because I knew you were going to do that. I like the swale of the afternoon. Or even the sudden dip into evening is quite lovely too, the thought of it at all.
Sure, right? It speaks so much truth about the feeling of the time passing, right? In such a universal way. I love the cello on the radio for some reason really rings with me, and I can just hear it in every way. I feel like I'm writing with Billy Collins when I hear that line. And I ask them questions like that. I say, well, what is it that you see? What is it that you feel about this poem? You know, if I feel like there's not a connection going on, I'm like, come on, guys, how does Billy feel about the morning? You know, and then we can start that conversation.
I would probably ask them if they're not morning people. That's the only way to counter argue this poem, because he makes it sound so wonderful.
I was thinking that too. I was thinking, asking, you know, who disagrees with that, and my hand would go up.
For sure, but like if you're going to disagree, you have to come up with images just as strong and beautiful to argue for a different part of the day, right? Like,
yeah.
And that would be such a great way to say, hey, write in response to this, right? Write about the time of day that you feel this passionately about, or write in how do you feel about morning? Absolutely. What I always end on though is asking them, how does each of these stanzas work like a haiku? Not literally, right? They're not 17 lines.
But you have the imagery. You have the moment.
And if you take the first line of each stanza, you notice that the last line spins from it. Makes you think about the first line differently.
And that's a great way to think about how they build on each other, right? And his choice of breaking lines is deliberate, right? It's not just, here's these little 4-line boxes that some of our students want to create and want to fit their poems into these little boxes. But absolutely, right? They're these little images and they build on each other in that way. And what I invite them to do is not to use their haikus as haikus, but to use their haikus as raw material, as a collection of images to draw from, to move around, to manipulate, to leave behind. Abandon the structure and the confine of the haiku. And what do you want to say about what you saw and what you wrote about today?
We would call that a stacku.
I knew you were going to say that because I saw that video of that kid talking about your stackus, Joanna. I'm so glad you showed up because you were in my mind when I made this lesson a little bit.
Oh, well, good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, my T-Bop family is always up here as I make these, as any lesson, the voices informing my better lesson making. So that's the next step. I would like you guys to take a few moments here as we round out. This is the end of the lesson, and we'll have a little bit of chance to share and debrief. But take 5 or 10 minutes again, and a new poem that is not a haiku, that is a collection of images that tells us how you feel about what you wrote about and what you experienced through your 5 senses. And feel free to mute or turn your cameras off so you have that space to write when you're done, turn your camera on, let us know when you're ready. Take another moment with what you're working on. I want to be respectful of y'all's time in the evenings here. So before we wrap things up and debrief, is there anybody who would like to share the poem that they made?
If nobody else will, I will.
Go ahead, Joanna.
Okay. I made a cup of tea, and that's where the inspiration came from. Last summer, in a cup, warmed upon my fire, sip the lavender northern nights, swallowing the only time when the sky wins the competition, blue sky over blue lake in the heat of the day. But late, the opening of the celestial vault spills the northern lights, green, gold, and rose, spirits that hover for a time, reassurance that beauty awaits on the other side.
Thank you for sharing that. Wow. Madi, do you want Madi to put hers in the chat? Would you like to read it? Do you want me to read it? Do you want me just to leave it there? So cool and casual about the whole thing. We can't hear you, by the way.
Really? How about now?
Oh yeah, no, you're good.
Okay. Who taught you to say the things that inside I feel? Coarse to the touch, yet soft the sound, spilling out my secrets in rhythm. The vibrating smell of steel plucking away pain. The weapon against surrender, a melody. Play on, counter of tears. Play on, translator of the heart. Play on, play on. Play on.
Nice, nice. Thank you. Anybody else interested? All right, go ahead, Jennifer.
Mine is so sad. Everybody else's is so good. I kind of had I listened to a lot of Sirius XM like in the car, and Billy Joel channel kind of just ended, and I was like really all into the Billy Joel channel. And he was one of the days he was talking about how he wrote the song "We Didn't Start the Fire," and that because to me that almost sounds sort of like a haiku, like that song. And it's like, you know, like, I don't know, I can't think of it now, but the little lines like Doris Day, like Harry Truman, Doris Day, Red China, you know, like to me it just always kind of sounded like a haiku. But he said he did it with he said it's his worst melody he's ever written because it's so basic. But he was doing it from the year he was born and year by year. And then when it got to the 60s, he just lumped it because of the way the things evolved. And I just thought that was like really cool. So mine is my evolution of like getting home from work. Um, Soft, welcoming, inviting nest, mindless drifting thoughts, scrolling, buttons to control, scrolling channels up and down, not a thing to watch, homes going above and beyond, ghosts invading private and public spaces, adventures across the globe, forensics, it's usually the spouse, angry chefs, disastrous cooks, weather forecast, outfit for tomorrow, Jeopardy, I got that one right, buttons to control, scrolling channels up and down, not a thing to watch, scrolling mindless in my nest.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. That was awesome. Would anybody else like to share?
I'll share.
Okay, thank you, Elvira.
I've been staring at this basket of avocados on my table looking for inspiration. And so I finally decided we just write about those because I wasn't getting anywhere. So here we go. Green avocados, drawing in the sunlight through the French doors. Your flesh, once thick and coarse, softens as you ripen almost overnight in the confines of the wicker basket. It isn't until you've been stripped away of your covering and mashed that your pleasant mildness is perceived. I started writing about you avocados and discovered myself.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I love how this lesson helps people just see beauty in poetry and what's around them. And I think that in that way, it seems to always come full circle to haikus in a more authentic way than actually asking people to write a haiku. They get caught up in the form and not the purpose. In doing this, I love the imagery that it always evokes in people. And by sharing something as accessible as Billy Collins, who I think is insulted that we keep calling him accessible, but he's funny anyway. We get to see like an American form of this art. Or any kind of questions, comments, any debriefs here on this sort of bite-sized little lesson that could be done in the class period?
I just really love this, and I really felt what you said about how the sequence of it really just kind of unlocks, and I'm really pleased with what I wrote tonight. So thank you.
Me too.
That's so exciting. And one question I have that you don't have to answer now. It's just something I always wonder about. Is I often feel like this makes me think about, like, this line could have gone first or second or third, and even the one that I've written now, I sort of feel a little bit like there are things that could go in different places. And so that's kind of a lingering question I have about haikus, is how to figure that out.
Well, I have another lesson I do with revising poetry where I have them print their poems out on as large a paper as we can get, and then they just cut it all up, and we read a few poems and talk about poems that have in-stop lines versus oh god, it's late, when they run over and jammed it, and then the lines that stop in the middle, which looks like Caesar but it's not Caesar, and having them move those around, right? Like, so they actually cut their poem up and move it, and we kind of talk about some effect of that. I think it's a great thing to have people experiment with in their writing. It is line order, so yeah. Well, I hope that you guys find some inspiration in this lesson, whether you use all of it or part of it, and that it gets you through the week. I straight up used Mari's Gestalt lesson like the next day, and so many great pieces of writing came out of it, and we were able to build on it. So I hope that this is a gift to you and can be something you use.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
Good
Jen. Thank you.
food for the soul for the night. Thank you.
I hope so.
I appreciate it's the first bit of writing I've done all week.
Yeah, we never have time to write.
No, no, no.
And we need to make time for ourselves
Yeah.
to write. Yeah.
Eric, thank you so much. And in closing, I just want to say again that we'll be sending a follow-up email with the recording. And if you would agree to share it, Eric, with the slideshow
Yep.
you used tonight. And you'll be able to find that too on our website in case for some reason our email doesn't get through to you. And in that follow-up email, will also be a link to a survey that invites your suggestions for other lessons or other, sort of revisions or additions to this this initiative. And if you would like to give a Fumes for Friday lesson yourself, please get in touch in response to that email and let us know. We'd love to keep this going and continue to kind of give back to the community as we all kind of make it through this time. Thank you so much for being here. Eric, thanks again for
Welcome.
a terrific lesson.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.